Happy 100 days.
Woo!
I know. A lot has happened in the last 100 days. As head of NPR, you were recently asked to testify at the Anti-American Airwaves hearing.
That's right.
What kind of anti-American shenanigans are you getting up to over at NPR?
Let's see. Reporting on the impact of the administration on disabled folks, reporting on veterans issues and the revocation of a program that was designed to keep veterans in their homes following COVID-19. Tiny Desk.
Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah.
That was it. At some point, Americans deserve big desks, and you guys have really been pushing this tiny desk narrative for so long.
Efficiency.
Efficiency, right? I mean, did you ever imagine that you would be having to defend yourself in front of Marjorie Taylor Greene and trying to defend the whole purpose of NPR? Was that on your dream board?
Yes.
It was.
My dream board was to advocate for NPR in any way that I can in all of public media. So if I'm going to go in front of Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm going to tell her exactly why we're so valuable and beneficial to the country.
I saw a picture here. We have a picture here. I want to know what was going through your mind in this. Were you asking for help from a higher being? What was going through your head there?
I think I was just trying to sit down.
Oh, really?
Without falling out of my chair.
Because you're used to tiny desks. I'm like, this is just too large. This is too large.
Well, you know, when you get in there, it's a little bit like Mount Olympus. They're very, very far away and very high up, and you're very small and on the ground, and so you're just that thing of looking up. It is actually kind of awe-inspiring. I know that people are sort of cynical about Congress at times, but I was in awe. I mean, I'm sitting there. This is the seat of our legislative branch, and it really was an honor to be able to go in.
I mean, it's you know, NPR, PBS is often it's part of the conversation. I think there's been a lot of push for many years to take funding away. But in like 2025, the criticism from the right is what do we need public funds to go towards NPR for? What is that argument? People are getting their news from all sorts of people. Most people just get their news from the TikTok feed from their neighbor. So why do they need their taxes to go to a place like NPR?
Well, there's also a very big difference between disseminating the news and gathering the news. And what we do is we do news gathering. It allows for people to then be able to come in and add their spin and their commentary on it. So I have no problem with TikTok influencers or other people resharing that news. I think that that's actually great. But we want them to have credible sources of news to begin with, to be able to base that work on. But more importantly, I think the big misconception is that this money goes to NPR or to PBS. The reality is that the vast majority of funds in public broadcasting resources go directly to local stations. So I'm talking about, I did a little research. I'm talking about WK.
Oh, this is, okay,
yes.
all right. Bring that NPR shit here. Oh, I get it.
I think it's WMUK, WKAR, or the stations where you grew up.
Kalamazoo, Michigan,
There
yes,
you
exactly,
go.
yes,
Exactly.
WMUK. Indeed.
And so stations like that, they get a significant part of their funding comes from public funds. And that really matters, especially when you get into rural parts of the country. So I was in Asheville, North Carolina recently, as we all know, devastating damage in Hurricane Helene. You know, they have enormous radio towers that broadcast across that topography, because it's like this, you know, it's the Appalachian Mountains. Same thing's true. Eastern Kentucky. You get out to the Rocky Mountains. Same thing is true. Huge swaths of the country. That's expensive to maintain. We cover 99.7% of the country with our broadcast coverage, and that allows for Americans to have access to news even in places where news deserts are growing, where disasters happen. That's what your federal funds go to. They go to your local station. They go to your local reporters.
So what does that look like? So, I mean, the threat right now is they take $1 billion away from NPR, PBS over the next couple of years, correct?
Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR, PBS, and all of public media.
What does that look like? If that goes through, if they take $1 billion away, what happens?
It's not great. I think that Americans need to be aware that it is going to be harmful to the system, right? So a lot of us probably grew up on kids television, PBS Kids. It is a crown jewel of American public broadcasting programming. And whether you think about, you know, your history with Mr. Rogers, whether you're thinking about Sesame Street, whether you're thinking about more contemporary programming, that is so important, and that is under threat. When you think about your local radio stations, those may not be able to provide the same sorts of services. And the first thing that's going to go, I have to tell you, is going to be local reporters' jobs. We have news deserts. 20% of Americans live in a place where they have no local news coverage other than public radio. What that means is that when we lose public funding, we are no longer going to be able to cover things like what matters in the State House. We're not going to be able to cover natural disasters. We're not going to be able to cover issues of local politics, issues of what's happening in your local sports team. We know that the existence of local news, and public radio in particular, contributes to lower rates of polarization, higher rates of civic engagement, and higher rates of civic trust. This is foundational infrastructure for our country. Even when we disagree, this is the sort of thing that can start to heal some of those disagreements and bring us back together.
Now, it's interesting, though. Folks on the right are complaining there's a liberal bias with places like NPR. And we're in a politically charged time, and you have to, as the CEO, you have to walk what that line is and appeal to all of America. But I also fear from the left, they feel like moving towards the right looks like capitulation. In some ways, I feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. How do you balance this? I don't see a situation where there's an articulation of fairness that both sides can agree upon. The right asks you to be less progressive or less liberally biased. And I think any actions towards that will be seen as strict capitulation from the left. Well, is that where you're at?
I mean, I won't lie. It is. We are always in a tough spot. But what I love about our mission and our mandate is that it's actually our responsibility to try to serve everyone. No other commercial media organization has that same mandate. They can hyper-serve a particular audience, and that contributes to polarization. It's actually our job to bring folks together. What I see this as is, look, our reporting, our fact-based reporting, is absolutely down the line. I stand by our journalism 1,000%. We recognize that we have some of the best journalists in the business, and they go out there and they find stories, whether they're reporting on Congress or whether they're reporting on issues of climate change, desertification, water rights, et cetera. They're doing great reporting. I think what we need to be able to do is to bring more voices onto our air and have folks in conversation about the policies that are being made in this country today. We need to be able to hear from policymakers from across the spectrum. So we invite people from every party onto the air, but not everyone comes. I don't think that it's a question per se of us being biased in terms of our actual reporting. What I do think is that we're missing some voices. And so I would just take this opportunity to extend again an invitation to conservative voices who feel like they're not being heard. I also, I think that we can't shirk from our responsibility to serve all Americans. And so another criticism that we see is that, we're too woke. But the reality is this is a very diverse nation. And our mandate under the Public Broadcasting Act is to serve everyone, including the unserved and the underserved. And we can't pull away from that either. We have to be able to represent America in all of its diversity, even when that makes us sometimes uncomfortable. That means expanding the tent to be as big a tent as possible, rather than sort of moving the tent around the country to accommodate different groups.
Have you thought about, if you really want to expand that tent, have you thought about rebranding, like Terry Gross presents the American Mancast ear hole? Really, let Terry lean into it,
I'm imagining Terry in a Knotty Pine basement,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just sipping bourbon,
I don't know.
Pushing ivermectin every now and then. Is Terry interested in this? Come on.
I couldn't tell you what Terry's drink of choice is. Maybe it is bourbon. That sounds like a great interview.
This is get to the bottom of this, NPR. The people want to know. Catherine, before you leave, it seems only right for us to give you a Daily Show tote bag. I know this is currency. I believe this is considered the Bible in the NPR world, so I wanted to pass it along.
I barter these for groceries at this point.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Catherine Maher, everybody.